I'm going to begin by reading you a quote that Senator Patrick uttered in this very chair 2 weeks ago. You didn't think I wanted to talk about the Rangers, did you? Quote, "Everything that Senator Carona has said, let there be no doubt, no question, is unwarranted, unfounded, untrue. Scurrilous attacks made on me and my family in a fashion that even some of the most hard-boiled political observers have never seen." Went on to say these are absolute lies that he either made up or has taken pleasure in repeating and continues to repeat. Are you a liar, Senator?
Well, absolutely not. You know, we still don't know exactly what his real allegation is because he's never been specific. One moment he says, "I've stated it," and the other moment he says it was perhaps gossip passed on. He's never named his source. And the most frustrating thing about it, besides the fact that I did not do the things he accused me of doing, was the fact that he never phoned, he never emailed, he never asked me about it at all. Had he done that, it could have been cleared up. Instead, what he did is he sent a rather long and interesting email, sent late into the evening, to all of the members of the Senate. And that was how he handled the problem. I didn't know there was a problem with regard to anything that he was concerned about until I read that email, just like all of my colleagues did. And it was at that point, and only at that point, that I responded, and that's been the only written response I've sent since that time.
Let me ask you directly. Did you spread any rumors about Senator Patrick or his family, the state of his marriage, or anything else?
No, I did not.
Nothing to any senator who might have then gone to Senator Patrick and said, "I heard this from Senator Carona"?
Certainly not.
Yeah.
And I will stand further. As I said, you know, I'm not bashful about my distrust of Senator Patrick and his motives and his objectives. But truthfully, I wish this issue had never been one brought public. I don't think it should have been brought public by Senator Patrick. And I think that the institution of the Senate deserves better. I think our colleagues in the Senate deserve better. And most importantly of all, I think there are so many issues so much more important than that. This state's really at a crossroads right now. And we ought to be talking about issues, and I'm glad to talk about issues. Good. And I hope we'll get a chance to do that.
And we will in about 5 minutes. The reason, so you didn't do the things Senator Patrick said, and the reason that you wrote to the entire Senate was because Senator Patrick wrote.
Oh, it was just in response to the people that he had already sent a very inflammatory and false email to, and no other reason than that. And candidly, in hindsight, I wish, looking back, I hadn't even done that, because this is the very type of thing that makes people more cynical about politics. It's not about where our priorities should be down here. Listen, I make no secret of the fact I don't like the guy, and I've got a long list of reasons why, but I don't think those kind of things need to be aired publicly.
In public.
Yeah.
Well, if that's the case, Senator, then let me ask you not why you did what you did, but why you did it the way you did it. You wrote back to Senator Patrick, to the entire Senate, and said, yes, as you accused me of doing, Senator, you're accusing me of spreading things about the state of your family and your marriage. I did not do those things. But then, although he didn't mention it, you then said, and also I didn't spread rumors about your sexual orientation.
That's correct.
He didn't bring it up. You had to know, Senator, that by bringing it up, everybody who read those emails would go, ho, every time they hit that word. They would be surprised to see that. If this was basically about making the whole thing go away, you really raised the stakes of this yourself, didn't you?
I think I probably did raise the stakes, and I think those people that know me best know that if you bring on a fight, you can expect one in return. But the truth of it is...
Is that a fair fight, Senator?
I think it was, because it wasn't initiated by me. And I think that, you know, the point was these sorts of rumors have been out there for quite some time about Senator Patrick. They didn't originate from me. And those particular rumors certainly weren't spread by me.
But none of us in this room, Senator, had heard them until you brought them up.
Well, I'm surprised the media wasn't already on top of that years ahead.
Why would why should the media care what Senator Patrick's sexual orientation is?
I don't think they should, and truthfully, I don't. My point was simply to make that, look, you've had rumor, you're a high-profile figure because you put yourself in that position, Senator Patrick. You've had rumors about you, and all sorts of rumors about you for a long, long time. And if you want to get into this sort of detailed discussion, well, then we'll have a detailed discussion. But I will tell you is I wish I'd had the opportunity to tell Senator Patrick, had he called or emailed, I don't want to be discussing these things. I care about the institution of the Senate. You know, I've been a member in the Senate, and I think a leader in the Senate for a long time. And I think at a time when we have so many important issues to deal with, these are not the things that people really want to know about and really care about.
Senator, with respect, you're being disingenuous to say that you don't want to talk about Senator Patrick's sexual orientation, because if you didn't want to talk about it, you wouldn't have. You brought it up.
I think it was put in the correct context, and that's the point I'm trying to make here, is he brought up the issues of gossip and innuendo. He's had gossip and innuendo out there for quite some time, and I was just referencing that as a benchmark for the discussion that he brought on himself. You know, I think when you hold yourself out to be more righteous than the rest, and when you send a long, rambling email, relying, in fact, on gossip. Had he called me, he could have had fact, but instead he relied himself on gossip, and then you close it by quoting Scripture. I think all of that makes it a bit suspicious, and I believe that he clearly had other motives, and I discussed in my one reply what I thought those motives were. I have not wavered in that at all. But again, I don't think that that's where the focus ought to be. I think that it's regrettable that both he and I engaged in it. And I will tell you, for whatever part I had in it that was inappropriate or over the top, I apologize. I'm not too big to do that or say that. But I would hope he would also issue an apology, because this again could have been avoided had he just done what any of us in the Senate through long tradition would have done if they had any question, and that's pick up the phone or send an email and ask the question, not send out a blast email as he did.
You mentioned the fact that Senator Patrick quoted Scripture at the end of his email. Sitting in this chair 2 weeks ago, he said that he thinks part of the attack on him has been to undermine or diminish or demean his faith. Do you have any problem with his faith?
I have no problem at all. I'm a Christian as well, and I suspect my church attendance is just as strong as his. So, no, I have no problem with his faith at all. In fact, I'm glad he is a man of faith, if in fact he's sincere, and that's not my business either. Only he knows that.
Senator Patrick said this is really about the race to be Lieutenant Governor Dewhurst's successor, either now, if he should win the Senate race, or in 2014. That what Senator Carona was doing was attacking me to undermine my seriousness or stature as a potential candidate to be either presiding officer or lieutenant governor, and he said this is really a battle for the soul of the Republican Party today. Do you agree with that?
Well, I think that was a bit vitriolic if he said all of that, but what I would...
Those are my words, but I'm characterizing what he said.
Yeah, I think that, exactly, I think that his original email blast was purposely sent to impact the lieutenant governor's race, whether it be the interim race should the Lieutenant Governor Dewhurst win, or ultimately a race in 2014. Senator Patrick's made it clear that he will only support someone for the interim position who pledges not to run in 14. The reasons are obvious. He'd like to run in 14. Again, whether he does or he doesn't isn't really the issue. The real issue, I think, is just making sure that we examine what the motives might have been behind him sending that initial blast email. And I think it was clear that it was just to discredit me. And I think that what he did not count on was a strong response. And I think that when you have a personality like Senator Patrick's, who I think is prone to a bit of gimmickry and stunts of this nature, we've seen it happen on more than one occasion since he's been in the Senate, the way you respond to it is not by sitting back or cowering. You respond directly, and you hope in doing so that that'll put an end to it. And that's what I hope where Senator Patrick's concerned. I think this issue's over. We ought to both put it behind us. We ought to both look forward. And frankly, we ought to both quit talking about it.